Exposed. The incredible story of 500,000 lives changed during America's first mass deportation. In a small, bustling barbershop caught at the heart of a vibrant midwestern town, Miguel Rodriguez worked his magic on his customers, transforming hair and lives with each snip of his scissors. The air buzzed with laughter, conversations flowing seamlessly, and the hum of clippers infused energy into the cozy space. Pictures of locals adorned the walls, snapshots of moments that captured the heart of the community. Miguel, a proud immigrant from Mexico, donned his apron with love and care, embodying the very essence of the American dream. Every cut was not merely about hair. It was about connection, building bonds, and sharing stories that intertwined their lives. But on this average Tuesday, an ominous cloud hung over the town. News of impending mass deportations rippled through the streets like a cold wind, sending shivers down the spines of countless families. Panic spread as whispers crackled in coffee shops, and furrowed brows painted a picture of fear. Miguel heard the tremors of anxiety slither through his barbershop, merging with the sounds of buzzing clippers. For many, he was more than just a barber. He was a friend, a mentor, a father. But now, the weight of uncertainty sat heavily on his shoulders. What would become of him? His heart raced as he cut through hair, thoughts of his own family racing through his mind. His loyal customer, Tom, a salt and pepper-haired veteran, walked into the shop that day with his usual jovial manner. But the light in Tom's eyes dimmed when Miguel shared the news. A moment of silence fell between them, thick with tension. "I don't want to lose you, Miguel," Tom said, his voice barely above a whisper. Miguel's heart ached. They had shared so much more than haircuts. They had shared lives, dreams, and hopes. Over at the local coffee shop, tension boiled as neighbors gathered. Words flowed like a torrent of ideas and fears. What if we come together? What if we support our own? A murmur of agreement spread, but doubt lingered in eyes filled with worry. As conversations deepened, Miguel's situation began to divide the very fabric of their close-knit town. Betrayal wasn't just a distant thought. It was looming. Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. As the days turned, the looming deportation order changed everything. Friends began to withdraw quietly into themselves, fearful of being associated with Miguel. The once warm barbershop filled with laughter fell into an unsettling silence. The shadows of doubt clouded the hearts of those who loved him. Betrayal struck hard when a trusted neighbor crossed the line, prompting whispers about Miguel's allegiance to the community. And then Miguel faced the reality he had dreaded. His neighbors, the ones he had stood shoulder to shoulder with, were now standing apart. With the clock ticking down to deportation day, hope hung by a thread. Would they rise up together for what was right, or would fear ultimately tear them apart? As families sat huddled in their kitchens, grappling with the storm, one question echoed in the hearts of many. Could they still hold on to their dreams when facing the greatest danger? The answer loomed just beyond the horizon, where the weight of their choice could either bring unity or fracture everything they held dear. The sun dipped low on the horizon, casting long shadows across the streets of the town. It was as if the world itself was aware that something was terribly wrong. Miguel stood in front of his barbershop, heart heavy. The familiar hum of clippers inside felt like a distant memory as he gazed at the quiet street. This was not merely a job to him. It was home. Yet, fear had taken root, making even the simplest moments feel insurmountable. Across the street, he spied Sophia, a young mother he had once joked with over haircuts, clutching her child tightly, her eyes darting around as if searching for safety in a world turned hostile. The sight of her prompted a sharp pang in his chest. They all were living in a delicate balance, teetering over a cliff that threatened to swallow them whole. Earlier in the day, Tom had dropped by the barbershop with a plan. "Miguel, it's time we take action," he had said, steel in his voice. "If we're going to stand by each other, we need to make it known we won't let fear divide us." But meetings convened in whispers. The unity Tom spoke of lost amidst spoken fears swirling like a dark cloud. Miguel's heart raced as he listened to the chatter, knowing that not everyone agreed. Some were wary, thinking it too dangerous to defend an immigrant when their own livelihoods felt at stake. "We can't risk it," they murmured, their faces lined with worry. Tension hung thick in the air, festered in tight jaws and rapid heartbeats. The town was on the brink of tearing itself apart, and Miguel felt the burden of being the catalyst for it all. He often replayed the moments they had shared, every laugh, every story. It was a bond he desperately wanted to protect. Later that night, sitting at his kitchen table, he could hardly focus on the words of the children's book in front of him. The laughter of his two daughters rang in his ears, a bittersweet reminder of the joy that could vanish overnight. Maria, his youngest, pointed at a picture, her innocent eyes bright. "Daddy, look at the happy people." He smiled, his heart heavy yet touched. "They are happy, sweetheart. But every family has their own story." "Do we have a happy story, Daddy?" she asked, her small fingers tightening around his hand. Such a simple query for a child, yet it carried an impact that rippled through his soul. Miguel's heart ached with the realization that his daughters might not have the same future if fear won out. As the days dwindled toward that deportation deadline, whispers of a town meeting spread. It was a chance for neighbors to come together, to voice their fears, their hopes. But would it be enough? Would they choose to stand united for one of their own? In the dim light of the barbershop, Miguel rummaged through a box filled with old photographs, memories of better times. He felt a surge of determination. His place was not just in the chair with scissors. It was in the pulse of the community, and he could not stand idly by. The clock was ticking. As he pondered his next steps, a harsh knock on the door interrupted his thoughts. Heart racing, he approached, and as he swung it open, the unexpected sight that greeted him sent a surge of both hope and dread through his veins. "Can we talk?" The neighbor, once a friend, now an embodiment of the town's torn loyalties, stood before him as the world blurred into uncertainty. Would this be the moment that defined their fate, or would it further unravel the threads of their community? Miguel felt the weight of the moment pressing down on him. He stared at his neighbor Gary, once easygoing, now a mask of uncertainty and fear. The hastiness in the man's voice made Miguel's heart race. Would this be a conversation that could heal, or one that would open deeper wounds? "Sure, Gary. Come in," Miguel said, trying to sound calm while his insides twisted in knots. Once inside, Gary hesitated, glancing around as if to be sure that no one was eavesdropping. Miguel felt it too, that invisible threat, that shadow lurking just beyond the threshold of their lives. The air felt thicker in the barbershop, weighed down by the tension of unspoken truths. "Look, I know things have been hard lately with everything going on," Gary started, his hands fidgeting. "I wanted to check on you and Sophia. There've been rumors." Miguel nodded slowly. "We're all worried, Gary. But what's taking shape is more than just rumors. Lives are at stake." Gary shifted uncomfortably. "We've been talking at the diner. It's not just about Sophia. Some folks want to take a stand, but others are scared. I mean, it's understandable. Everyone's thinking about their own families." His heart sank as Miguel recalled the faces of his neighbors, the same people he had grown up with, the same folks with whom he shared everything, the joys, the hardships, the haircuts and laughter. But now they were divided, lines drawn in the sand. A part of him understood, yet the other half whispered that surrender was not an option. "What about standing together?" Miguel asked, his voice steadying. "What if we could hold a real meeting? A place where we can talk openly, face the fears together? Maybe we can find common ground." Gary hesitated, his brow furrowing. "I don't know, Miguel. People are terrified. They're afraid of losing what they have." "And what do they have?" Miguel blurted out. "Do they have the peace of mind that their neighbor is safe? Or do they cling to a false sense of security while our community crumbles underneath us? Silence fell between them, thick as the dusk creeping in from outside. Miguel could see Gary wrestling with his thoughts, caught between fear for his own family and the empathy he once shared with Miguelis. Finally, Gary took a deep breath. Maybe you're right. It may help. But we have to make sure everyone feels safe coming. As if a flicker of hope ignited, Miguel felt a rush of determination. Then let us spread the word. Let us organize it. I'll talk to Sophia, to Tom, get others involved. We'll need to move fast, though. It's now or never. Gary nodded, his eyes lighting up a little. Okay, I'll help. But you have to promise me something, Miguel. What? Promise you one T take unnecessary risks. This isn't just about standing up for Sophia. It could get really dangerous. Miguel met Gary's gaze, feeling the weight of both their fears. Promise. But I can't do nothing. Not while my daughters sleep in this house. As Gary left, Miguel felt a powerful mix of hope and dread. The meeting could either bring them together or fracture them further. But he had no choice. He had to try. That night he stared at the photos on his wall. The smiles of his daughters illuminated the dark room, a grounding reminder of all he fought for. Yet, as the clock ticked ominously, Miguel couldn't shake the feeling that the turmoil was only beginning. He could sense a storm brewing, a violent swell of emotions and decisions that would set the course for everyone's future. Would they find the courage to unite? And what risks waited if they did? As he tucked the children in, Miguel glanced out the window. The moon hung heavy, casting shadows that felt almost alive. All he could do was hope. Tomorrow would come with its own set of challenges. And as the town stirred, so too did the potential for change. Would they pick up the pieces together, or continue to let fear dictate their lives? The morning light trickled through the curtains, illuminating the cluttered room with a soft golden glow. Miguel rubbed the sleep from his eyes and took a deep breath. Today would be the day. Today he would reach out to his community, and together they would confront their fears. It was the best, perhaps only chance they had left. He moved through the house quietly, careful not to wake his daughters. The taste of anxiety lingered on his tongue as he prepared breakfast. Scrambled eggs sizzled in the pan, filling the air with a familiar warmth. But he felt no comfort. Instead, each crack of the egg reverberated through his mind, reminding him of the cracks forming in their town, their sanctuary. Papas, can we have pancakes? Sophia's voice rang out from the hallway, eager and bright, interrupting his thoughts. Miguel smiled at her enthusiasm, the innocence of childhood wrapping around him like a comforting blanket. Of course, pancakes coming right up. It was important to keep things normal, to shield his girls from the impending storm. But as he flipped the pancakes, his mind wandered back to the meeting. He envisioned folks from the diner gathering, looking for answers, searching for strength. Would they come? Would they risk their safety for a chance to stand together? When breakfast was ready, he called the girls to the table. Sophia and her little sister, Camila, rushed in with sleepy smiles. As Miguel watched them eat, the contrast between their carefree nature and the heaviness in his heart became almost unbearable. Are we going somewhere today, papas? Camila asked, her mouth full of pancake. Not today, mi amor. But I'll be busy for a while. Just stay together and play. Okay? They nodded, still focused on breakfast, but a deep sense of dread loomed. As soon as the dishes were done, he had to get moving. Outside, the sun was bright, unaware of the tension creeping into the town. Miguel drove through familiar streets, waving to neighbors who offered half-hearted smiles. He was on a mission now, seeking to spread the word about their meeting. He started with Tom, a sturdy man with a good heart. Tom's garage door creaked open, revealing tools, old bikes, and a hint of sawdust in the air. Miguel, what brings you here? He asked, wiping his hands on a rag. Tom, we need to talk. About the meeting, Miguel said, urgency in his voice. Minutes turned into hours as Miguel shared their plan, the weight of it bearing down on both men. Tom had worries etched deep in his brow, and Miguel could see his apprehension reflected in his eyes. Listen, I'm with you. But are we sure this is the right move? I mean, what if it gets out of hand? Tom's voice trembled slightly, doubt creeping in despite the sense of obligation that bound them. We have to try, Miguel insisted. If we don't, what's left? Division? Fear? Tom nodded slowly, body tense. All right, I'm in. I'll talk to some folks, see who's willing to show up. With a sense of purpose ignited, Miguel left, heart racing, even as the threat of danger loomed larger now. Each conversation he had, every familiar face he approached, only brought the weight of fear closer to home. Could they truly come together? By late afternoon, he found himself back at his barbershop, settling into the familiar rhythm as clients came and went. Each snip of the scissors felt like a movement closer to change, yet the tension never fully left his shoulders as the sun dipped low. Miguel caught sight of the heavy clouds forming over the horizon, an omen of the storm that was to come. Would their community rise to the occasion? Or would the fear they felt pull them further apart? The door swung open, and he looked up to see Gary again, looking more strained than before. Miguel, we need to talk. Miguel's heart dropped. What news did Gary carry? Would it be the call to unity or another reason to retreat? Miguel's mind raced. Gary's furrowed brow and the tension in his shoulders spoke volumes. This wasn't just a casual catch-up. The air hung heavy with unspoken words, and Miguel could feel his heartbeat quickening. What is it, Gary? He urged, the unease mirrored in his voice. What's going on? Gary stepped inside the shop, looking over his shoulder as if expecting someone to follow him. It's bad, Miguel. Real bad. People are scared. Rumors are spreading fast, and it sounds like there might be more than just talk this time. Miguel leaned against the counter, arms crossed tightly. More than talk? What do you mean? There's a meeting tonight out by the old stadium. Some folks are saying they're organizing. They want to take matters into their own hands. Gary's words tumbled out in a rush. They think a show of force will solve everything. They want to keep the outsiders out, bolster their defenses, and I don't know, maybe even push back against the authorities. Fear gripped Miguel's heart. That's not what we need, he exclaimed, almost shouting. What we need is togetherness, not violence. Gary nodded but looked unconvinced. I know that, you know that, but people are feeling cornered. They think their safety is at stake. I've heard people talk about protecting family. You know how it gets raw in times like this. What if it escalates? What if people get hurt? Miguel said, his voice softening slightly, as he tried to envision his daughters living in a world wrapped in such hatred and fear. I don't know, man. And what's worse is we might not even know who to trust. Gary's voice dropped. What will we do when everyone divides into their own factions? Miguel's breath hitched. It was all too easy to understand how fear could twist people, turning friends into enemies. This is why the meeting we planned is so important. We need dialogue, not aggression. We need to lift each other up. But as the uncertainty crept in, Miguel feared whether they could wield hope when everything felt so bleak. Okay, you're right, Gary conceded, standing a bit taller. But we need to act fast. What's our next move? I'll rally people for our meeting, Miguel decided, resolve solidifying inside him. We might be the last voice of reason. It's our job to remind them who they are. Gary clasped Miguel's shoulder. I'll help spread the word. You just focus on getting people to see that there's strength in unity. Feeling the weight of the moment, Miguel nodded. Together, they stepped outside, clenching onto the threads of hope like it was a lifeline. Once in the vibrant sun, new shouts and laughter echoed from the nearby park, a stark reminder of happier times. Families gathering, children playing, those were the images that clung to Miguel's heart as he walked. They couldn't lose that. They couldn't let fear snuff out love as they parted ways outside. Miguel's thoughts shifted to the meeting, a knot of anxiety tightening in his chest. Would it make a difference? Could they really change hearts that were hardened by fear? Night descended. As Miguel prepared for the gathering, he caught a glimpse of the storm clouds forming above once more. The winds howled, and it felt like a signal, echoing the turmoil within. He took a deep breath, ready to face the unknown. He had to believe that in the darkest times, there was still light to find. But just as he reached for the door, A loud crash echoed from the street. The shouts from earlier transformed into screams. Miguel raced to the window, fear gripping him. What had happened? Was it too late to unite? He could feel the pulse of his heart racing. Anticipation knotted with dread. What lay beyond that door? Would the community stand strong? Or would it fall apart in the chaos? Miguel's heart raced as he pushed the door open. The chaos hit him like a tidal wave. People were scrambling in the streets, their voices tangled in panic. A group of teenagers skidded past, their faces twisted in fear, and Miguel immediately felt a sense of urgency swell within him. What's happening? He yelled to a man huffing down the street, his face pale. There's a fight. A bigger crowd's getting rowdy. They have sticks and stones. It's out of control. The man shouted, not slowing his pace. Miguel's stomach dropped. He needed to act. He sprinted in the direction of the old stadium, praying that he could reach the people before the violence spread further. Each step felt heavier as the realization sunk in. This wasn't just a spontaneous altercation. This was a symptom of something deeper, a wound laid bare by fear. He spotted Gary leaning against a fence. Relief seeped through him for just a moment before dread crept back. What's going on? Miguel panted, trying to catch his breath. Things are escalated since earlier, Gary said, eyes darting around, assessing the situation. We're losing control. The meeting we planned, it's shifted into something darker. Miguel's instincts kicked in. We need to find a way to bring them together. If we don't, this could tear us apart for good. People want to listen now, Miguel, Gary said, shaking his head. They're fueled by fear and anger. Then we'll have to make them listen. This can't go on. Miguel's determination flared. The tension choking the air felt heavy, but he wasn't willing to give up. He turned to the crowd. Taking in the faces, he recognized friends, neighbors, families, all unified in their outrage. But their unity was sliding toward violence. He lifted his hand, ready to shout, "Everyone, listen!" But the clamor swallowed his voice. "Hey!" Miguel yelled, desperation lacing his tone. "This isn't who we are. We are not enemies. We are a community." Some heads turned. Confused glances exchanged among the crowd felt like small victories. It was a step, but the crowd's anger was palpable, boiling over, and the urgency within him surged again. "Please," he continued, taking a step closer. "I know you're scared, but fighting won't solve our problems. It will only make things worse. We need to come together. Let us talk." A murmur swept across the crowd. Fear and frustration mixed with curiosity. Gary joined Miguel, backing him up. "Yes, right. If we retaliate, it just gives the chaos what it wants. Let us stand strong together." The chaos wasn't gone, but Miguel noticed a few people nodding, the wheels turning in their minds. It was only a glimmer of hope, but it was something. And just as it seemed like he was reaching them, a deafening howl split the air. The sound echoed ominously, as if nature itself was rebelling against the violence brewing below. Miguel turned, wide-eyed. A figure emerged from the shadows, charging towards the throng, waving something dangerous. "What is that?" a voice shouted from the back. Panic surged again, but Miguel felt a stronger surge within him. "Stay calm. We can't let fear win. We need to hold the line." But would they? Would the crowd keeping inching toward violence? Or could he turn this around in time? In the storm of emotions swirling around him, Miguel found his heart racing faster than ever, uncertainty tugging at his resolve. Before the crowd could react, that figure drew closer. What did they want? It was a moment of truth, and Miguel prepared for the fight that loomed ahead. Would they unite against this threat, or would chaos consume them all? Miguel's eyes widened as the figure barreled toward them, drawing ever closer. Panic erupted like a firework, the crowd shifting as the sense of foreboding washed over them. People whispered, their voices a mix of worry and anger. Uncertainty hung thick in the air. "What are you doing?" Miguel shouted, his voice cracking through the fear. He surged forward, lifting his arms in an attempt to disperse the tension. "Please back up." The stranger was clad in dark clothing, their face obscured by the shadow of a hood. But in their right hand, they raised what appeared to be a large, jagged stick, something that could do damage. The crowd recoiled, and Miguel's heart pounded against his ribcage. Do you want more chaos? More pain? Miguel's own voice was a mixture of fear and authority. This is not the way. He stepped closer, fueled by a desperate hope that he could prevent disaster. Suddenly, someone in the crowd screamed, "What if they're here to hurt us?" The fear rippled through the collective. And with it, Miguel felt the tide of anger beginning to swell again. "Listen," he yelled, scanning the sea of faces. "We all felt the anger, the hurt. But if we lash out now, it'll only bring more suffering. We have to unite." But his words hung in the air, like a fragile thread against the storm brewing before him. The figure continued to advance, and Miguel saw the crowd flex, a spasm of newfound aggression igniting in their eyes. "Stand down," a voice echoed from somewhere behind him. It was Gary. "Don't let fear control us." "Exactly," Miguel shouted, locking eyes with Gary for just a moment, a silent understanding of their shared mission. Miguel turned back to the crowd, trying to rally them before they lost their footing. "We're not alone, people. We've always fought for each other. We've taken on better challenges together." Then, with undeniable conviction, he raised his voice to its highest pitch. "What are we going to do? Give in to fear? Or will we stand together, arm in arm?" There was a moment, a heartbeat of silence as the crowd absorbed his words. Some glances softened, but Miguel could see others still agitated, resting with anger from deep within. But the figure charged on, picking up speed. Miguel's instincts kicked in again, and he planted his feet firmly. "Stop right there. Put that down," he yelled, his tone commanding, unwilling to back down. The figure halted their advance, taking a moment to assess the growing tension around them. Miguel's heart thudded in his ears, desperately hoping that perhaps this was the moment they'd reconsider. "Did your voices not call for a fight?" The figure spat, their voice harsh yet barely audible over the thrumming anxiety in the crowd. "Then why retreat?" "Because we want peace," Miguel shouted back, gripping the emotions that surged within him. "We choose to rise above this chaos." A moment stretched into eternity. Miguel studied the figure, searching for cracks in their armor of anger. Was there a flicker of doubt? Could his words penetrate the heart of someone so clearly fueled by hatred? Just then, from the back, a woman shouted, "Together, we can change this." The crowd began to respond, voices mixing, a unifying chant rising. Miguel felt something shift. Was this what they needed? A unified strength against this darkness so close to consuming them all. But as hope began to flicker to life, the figure made a sudden move. They lunged forward, the jagged stick aimed directly at Miguel. In one electrifying moment, the future teetered on the edge, as Miguel realized he had to confront not just the threat before him, but the fear that had festered in their community. Would they find the courage to confront that fear together? Or would the evening plunge into a wave of violence that would render everything they built useless? Miguel braced himself, heart racing as he faced the figure. Time slowed. He could see the edge of the jagged stick glinting ominously under the dim light. The air felt electric, heavy with dread. Would this be the moment everything fell apart? "Step back," he called out again, trying to sound more resolute than he felt. But inside, a storm of fear and determination brewed. The crowd behind him surged forward, their collective anxiety a palpable wave that threatened to crash over him. "Why do you fight? We're lost." The figure's words pierced through the chaos. Their voice trembled, revealing a strain that mirrored the emotions swirling in the crowd. "Join us in the anger. Say it's okay to strike back." Miguel felt a fire igniting within himself. "No, we won't find our way through violence. Don't you see?" He took a cautious step closer, hands outstretched in a gesture of peace. "This isn't what we want." Somewhere in the crowd, a young man called out, "But what if they hurt us first? What if we're the ones meant to be sacrificed? Are we willing to be the monster?" Another voice shouted, rising above the din. Miguel turned toward the speakers in disbelief, feeling the tide of emotion swirl once more. Doubt, anger, but also a flicker of hope. "Look," he shouted, his voice cracking under the weight of his plea. "Every one of us has felt anger, frustration, but we must channel it into love, not hate. You want change, don't you? So let us change together." The figure hesitated, confusion etching deep lines on their shadowed face. Miguel seized the moment, rallying the crowd even more. "Our pain can either divide us or unite us. This isn't about fighting, this is about understanding." There was a shift, almost imperceptible at first. He could see flickers of recognition in eyes that had once teetered on the brink of rage. Conversations erupted amongst them. People were questioning, reconsidering their stance. But before Miguel could celebrate this small victory, the figure clenched their stick tighter, eyes blazing. "You think understanding will save you? You're fragile. What if you fall and lose everything? Then we'll rise together," Miguel exclaimed, channeling every ounce of hope he could muster. "Together we can hit back, but not with sticks, with our hearts, with the power of community." And then, something humanity awoke inside the stranger. A slight hesitation, a quick glance back at the crowd. Miguel felt like he was standing on the edge of a cliff. One wrong word, one moment of doubt could send them spiraling into chaos. "Let go of the anger," he urged. "It's all-consuming. But love brings us together. We can break this cycle." For the first time, the figure faltered, lowering the jagged stick slightly. The palpable tension in the air shifted, turning into a breath of hope. The crowd, sensing this change, murmured together, their voices rising in unison. "We choose love. We choose unity." But just then, a hand reached out from behind Miguel, steady and certain. Gary stepped forward, his expression fierce yet compassionate. "Let us show them how healing is stronger than weapons. We're not afraid to hold out our hands instead." The crowd turned toward Gary, rallying behind him. Fueled by a surge of courage, they began to chant, almost rhythmically. "United we stand." It echoed around them, a heartbeat of change. But just as things began to settle, a sound echoed from the back. A different figure, cloaked in darkness, emerged with a menacing grin. "You think love can save you? Let us see how strong that love really is." Miguel's heart raced again as he realized this was just the beginning of something far more complicated than he imagined. Would their newfound strength hold against this emerging threat? Or was it too late to change the course? A hush fell over the crowd. Dark laughter slithered through the air, cold and unsettling. Miguel could feel their collective heartbeats stutter, uncertainty creeping into their veins. The new figure, cloaked and relentless, radiated menace. It was as if they fed off fear, and with every heartbeat, Miguel felt that fear grow. "Look at them," the figure continued, voice dripping with contempt. "They are fragile, full of empty promises and soft-hearted ideals. How long before they crumble before real power?" Miguel stood taller. "Respect isn't fragile. The stronger than you think." He couldn't let this dark presence destabilize the crowd again. The flicker of love and hope he had ignited could still burn bright. "You may think you can intimidate us, but we've found strength in each other. Together we are powerful." A ripple of life surged through the crowd, a sign of solidarity that warmed Miguel's heart. People began to nod, fists getting clenched not in anger, but in determination. Everyone was beginning to understand they were more than mere figures in a confrontation. They were a united force. "Power?" The cloaked figure's voice rose, almost mocking. "You think that's what you possess? Your kind of strength is a fairy tale, a fleeting memory, waiting to be broken." Behind Miguel he heard Gary murmur, "What if they're right? What if we're just dreaming?" But Miguel shook his head, trying to catch Gary's eye. "No." His voice rang out sharply. "We are not a dream. We're alive. Our pain and our dreams, they connect us. Beats are just echoes, but hearts beating as one, that's real power. Love is not weakness." With that, Miguel stepped forward, meeting the figure's gaze head-on. He could see the confusion flicker in their face, a small crack in their armor. "Maybe you don't believe in love," he said, "but we do. And we felt what it brings: the strength, the unity. You can't burn something down that's built on hope. The chant swelled in response, a wave of voices crashing together. Love is our strength. Love is our guide. But the cloaked figure snarled, shaking their head almost in disbelief. You truly think simple words can shield you from what's coming? The storm is here, and it won't pass quietly. Miguel. Gary's voice cut through the chaos, drawing his attention. There was urgency in his tone. We need to prepare. If this is a storm, we need shelter together. Fear gripped Miguel again, but he steeled himself. Then let us build that shelter. Not from wood or stone, but from the hearts around us. Let us show them that love isn't an escape, it's our battle cry. And just like that, something shifted. The crowd pulled closer together. A bulwark formed of flesh and spirit. Miguel could feel the warmth of their presence, the thrum of unity igniting the atmosphere. They were a beacon shining brightly in the dusk. But as they rallied more tightly, a flicker of doubt wormed its way into Miguel's mind. What if it wasn't enough? What if the darkness surged forward and extinguished their light? Underneath it all, the unanswered question loomed. Could love truly withstand the fierce winds of adversity? Just then, the cloaked figure lunged forward, a shadow ready to pounce. The crowd gasped, the moment hanging in the air like an electric thread, ready to snap. Would Miguel and the others hold strong in their newfound belief? Or would the darkness consume them? With his heart pounding, Miguel prepared to face the tempest head-on. Would love be their salvation or their downfall? The moment of truth arrived as the cloaked figure lunged, rage and desperation directing their every move. Miguel's heart raced, but he didn't flinch. Instead, he took a bold step forward, eyes locked on the threat, his spirit unyielding. Stop! He roared, voice echoing through the crowd. The air felt charged, heavy with anticipation. In that fleeting instant, everything froze. The figure halted, uncertain. The crowd held its breath, trembling like leaves caught in a tempest. This isn't the way. Miguel shouted again, channeling every ounce of his resolve. We don't need violence to make our voices heard. We need each other. He thought of Sophia and Camila, their innocent smiles illuminating so many dark days. He thought of Tom's unwavering support through thick and thin. It was their love and trust woven through years of shared moments that formed the very fabric of their community. The crowd began to stir, whispers resonating among them. "Yes, right," someone murmured from the back. "We won back down." The sentiment swelled, igniting a flickering flame of hope among the assembled neighbors. Together, Miguel urged, further emboldened. We stand stronger as a family, but divided we can only descend into chaos. Don't let fear create walls between us. The cloaked figure hesitated, their grip on the jagged stick faltering. At that moment, a young woman spoke up. We can change the narrative. Let us build bridges instead of walls. Her words echoed like a gospel in the night, resonating in the hearts of those gathered around. As voices rose, more echoed the sentiment. We want understanding. We want unity. The crowd visibly swelled with strength, emboldened by Miguel's plea. In that pivotal moment, anger and defiance transformed, swirling into something pure, a collective yearning for peace. The crowd surged forward, thousands of voices blending into a powerful melody of hope. Love is our shield, Miguel cried, feeling a wave of energy course through him, and instinctively he reached out for the cloaked figure. Join us. Lay down the fear. Become part of this community. Let the past be a lesson, not a curse. The figure's face twisted with confusion, resisting the lure of connection, but something was changing. Shadows danced across their expression as doubt seeped in. If you can let go of this hate, Tom shouted, joining Miguel at the forefront, you might find what love truly feels like. For the first time, the figure's grip relaxed, the jagged sticks sliding from their fingers, clattering onto the pavement like a fading memory. The cloaked figure stuttered, breath quickening. Vulnerability lurked beneath their furious exterior. I don't know how to stand down by seeing us, Miguel said softly. By recognizing our pain is shared. The crowd murmured agreement, inching closer, eyes fixed on the figure, humanity breaking through the darkness. In the silence that followed, Miguel sensed the flickering flame of possibility. There is no us versus them, only a community fighting against our fears. Together we can move forward. More voices joined in rising harmony, stronger than before. Together, together, together. And just as hope burned brighter, the storm clouds overhead roared, releasing a downpour, soaking the earth below. But instead of dread, people embraced the rain, feeling a cleansing wash over them, all the hot anger, the fear, and division pouring out, melting away in the synchronized cadence of unity. The figure looked around, uncertainty still framing their features. I don't want to feel lost anymore, I want to be part of something bigger. With a nod, Miguel reached forward, hand extended. Then stand with us. Be part of the healing. Slowly, the figure stepped forward, shrugging off the weight of their past. As they stepped into the light of the crowd, something phenomenal happened. New energy ignited. A collective decision circling the air, lifting everyone up. Faces softened, vulnerability replaced anger, and pain morphed into empathy. We will change together, Miguel declared, voice ringing out like a battle cry, the crowd chanting back. With fervor, united we rise. That night, as the rain washed away their fear, echoes of their voices intertwined. And in that moment, a new dawn revealed itself, one where love triumphed over hate, fear transformed into understanding, and a neighborhood evolved into a family. In the months to follow, the scars of division began to fade. The town thrived, sowing seeds of togetherness, reweaving the fabric of its community, anchored on the promises made that night as they shared laughter again within the barbershop walls. Miguel looked around at the new vibrancy that filled each corner. We did it together, he whispered to Tom, who stood nearby, pride glowing in his expression. Tom chuckled softly. And we'll keep doing it, my friend. Time has a way of teaching us resilience. Miguel nodded, heart swelling. The love and unity they found would guide them through whatever storms lay ahead. Because true strength didn't dwell in weapons. It dwelled in connection, understanding, and hope. Now emerged a new dream, and it was theirs to create the dream of a brighter future where walls no longer divided, but love built bridges to healing. And just as the dance of hope played on, Miguel knew one thing for certain. Together, they had forged an unbreakable bond, and nothing could tear them apart again. Now, let's keep that momentum going. You need to subscribe immediately to the channel, so you don't miss the next exclusive stories. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm, and show your support for the power of community and connection. Comment your reactions and feelings about the ending. Did it inspire you? And share instantly this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this transformation in action. This is the moment to show your support. Don't wait not even one more second.